Hello everybody, and welcome to our showcase presentation on key well-being takeaways from Finland schools. Here is my colleague Laura Luomanen-Jaakkola, who is the Director of Professional Development at the new Nordic school. She's a Finnish educator who's been coaching Finnish teachers for several years.
Hi and welcome. Here is my colleague Juha Repo, who's Director of Curriculum at New Nordic School. Juha is an experienced international educator and leader and also has worked as a principal in Finnish schools.
Laura, Finland is a great country, isn't it?
Yes, and New Nordic School's ideology is heavily based on Finnish curriculum, and we have taken some basic fundamental elements from the Finnish education culture as well.
Yeah, we've done pretty well in the field of education, but the circle in the middle, I think that's the most important one, because without well-being and happiness, then education has little or nothing to offer.
True. When it comes to well-being and positive education in Finnish schools, Finland has a lot of good things happening. One of the cornerstones of our high-quality schools are our well-trained teachers who almost all have a master's degree. Teachers have a lot of knowledge on student well-being and how to support it.
Completely agree with you, Laura. Yeah. Schools and education in general, they're not kind of isolated areas of the society. We do have a well-functioning healthcare system in Finland. We do have a well-functioning social services sector, and they're all kind of supporting and being parallel with the student well-being there. Sometimes when I'm outside Finland, I'm being asked that can you kind of take the Finnish education system and move it to another place? And well, I would say no, because education systems are always products of the surrounding culture and society. However, there are good elements that can be moved.
Yes, and this is what we at New Nordic School have taken into account. And next, we are going to explain some of the key factors of New Nordic School and our educational system. No one knows what the future will look like. That's why we have a strong emphasis on student well-being and equipping the students with future-ready skills. In the heart of our system is the idea that we want to empower the students to shape their own future.
We have a few elements around this idea, one of which is a Nordic baccalaureate curriculum, which is a full K-12 curriculum. It's personalized and it's purposeful, but we'll dig a little bit deeper into that into our next slide.
Yes, and for us, innovative pedagogy starts from being student-centered. This means that we are training the teachers also in a way that we help them to shift their own mindsets.
And all this is happening in a smart learning platform, which is an AI technology-driven environment for students and for teachers and for parents to kind of plan and implement and learn inside this framework. And technology, all in all, is good, but we should always remember that the main purpose of it is to help and enable. It should not make things more complicated and more difficult. As I promised in the previous slide over there, that we would talk a little bit more about the Nordic baccalaureate curriculum and look at some of the features. So one of the features is that it is interdisciplinary. So if we think about the traditional curriculum, it's quite kind of subject focused, that we have the language lessons and math lessons and science lessons, and the challenge and the danger in that kind of thinking is that the information is kind of scattered, and especially for the student, it's very difficult sometimes to kind of find the connections and form meaningful larger entities that what is important and what is not there. So the curriculum is kind of based on a larger holistic, we could almost say that kind of like a project work. We still have the traditional lessons there, but they are brought in around the themes that we have chosen there, and having this kind of integrated thinking, interdisciplinary thinking, I think it kind of promotes the student well-being also. What do you think, Laura?
Yes, I definitely agree with you. And while integrating different subjects to each other and having a more holistic view for learning, we also embrace collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking in everything we do at New Nordic schools. Being creative and being bold is one of our big values, and we encourage the students and we help them to find their strengths from the beginning of their learning journey.
Yeah, the curriculum is also competence-based. That we have kind of structured in a way that we are looking at because when we look at the larger things that we hope that eventually that the students will learn, we have broken those things into smaller skills and competencies that kind of gradually come up in the student learning there. And in that way, we are not, I mean, even though we are looking at the development and learning holistically, then it's easier, again, for the single student or for a group for the teacher can kind of point out that, okay, so this is the teeny tiny skill that where we are focusing during this lesson, and it makes it more visual and it makes it more concrete for the student and the group to kind of proceed in their mastery levels, any particular subject or area there. Laura, any words of wisdom?
Yes. In addition to achieving all these academic skills and achieving different competencies, we also focus on being mindful, and mindfulness also is an integrated part of our curriculum in all stages. And I think that these kind of practices and embracing this kind of culture is one of the key elements of a successful school and being future ready. In addition to that, we also have a high level of personalization in our curriculum.
Yeah, that is what makes all the difference there. I mean, if we think about the old education systems, they were kind of I think they were products of industrialization. It's kind of education for masses. That it's that we just come up with one system to fit all, and then we end up having one system that doesn't fit anybody. And that is something that we have completely changed. That the curriculum is highly personalized. We're looking at the students' strengths. We're focusing on the strengths and building upon those things. And of course, then we have the development areas there. But we are focusing on the positive side of there. No standardized testing there. So, hey, if you ask the goldfish and a monkey to climb up the tree, it's not very. I mean, that's the whole point of standardization. So that there is no point in standardization. So when it comes to assessment, it is continuous, it's formative, and then we are looking of individual development and not comparing the students to one another there. And also, I think to a certain extent, when we look at the society and we look at the workplaces, then they are not very homogenic when it comes to the age structure. I mean, there are people of different ages in the workplace, and this is exactly what we are trying to kind of change in the curriculum and in education, our schools as well. That we are talking about stages. It doesn't matter what the child's age is. That what matters is that the activities and learning is age appropriate. But the speed, the learning speed and the pace of learning might differ a lot. So we're not focusing on grade levels. That the child is on grade 1 or grade 2 or grade 3, but we're looking at the development, and that the child is kind of gradually moving upwards through the developmental stages there, no matter what the age is there. So there's a difference there. So Laura, anything else?
Yes, in addition, we are highly committed to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, which is really a great part of our system and making everything we do impactful and purposeful. In this presentation, we are going to approach well-being and positive education in a very holistic way. The elements of PERMA, positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning and accomplishments, are a part of a well-being school in a new Nordic school.
We also look at the systemic approach of these topics here, and how they exist at the different levels of the society and schools, and what should be the focus where we should be aiming for. When I've been talking with the principals all around the world, then most of the principals are saying that my school is a student-centered school, student-centered approach, and then the question actually is that what does it really mean? What does it really mean? In the last slide we talked about personalization, and it's kind of very, very close to that. And again, from the management point of view, if we look at that, then it's kind of like that. Whatever decisions you make at the end of the day, whether it's kind of administrative decision or very, very operational decision, then you should always kind of ask yourself that, how does this benefit the student? How does this benefit the student learning? And if you're not able to answer that correctly, which is that, yeah, it should benefit that, then there's something wrong with the system. I don't know. It's maybe oversimplifying, but I feel so.
Yeah, I agree with you, Juha. And as a Finnish teacher, and when I worked in Finnish schools as a teacher, I really felt that student-centeredness is something that is alive in the schools. Also, partly because we have this three-tiered support system in all basic education schools in Finland. This means that every student has the right for so-called general support. And it means that differentiation, for example, is required from teachers, and every student needs to be seen as an individual, and every student needs to have the support they need.
Absolutely.
And then there are two next steps in this level of support, and the next level is intensified support, and it means that when a student has even slight problems with learning or with social relationships or anything like that, then the student gets intensified support, but he or she is not removed from his class or her class. It means that the student can still be a part of the group and stay with the class, but he or she gets the help he or she needs. And then there is the third level of support, which is special support, and it means that when a student faces some kind of difficulties with learning or with a relationship with friends, for example, or working in the group, they can even get a modified curriculum for themselves. And this is what I've found very beneficial, especially from the well-being perspective of students, that everyone gets the support they need, but they don't need to leave the group or the class.
That's true, yeah. Sometimes when I've been talking about the student support with other people, and the way that what we think about is in Finland, I say that in the Finnish thinking, we are all special needs students at the end
Yes,
of the day.
right.
We kind of all need the support somehow there. Yeah, the school life nowadays is kind of hectic. It's and sometimes when I'm kind of mentoring trainee teachers or just kind of going around in the classes as a principal, then I kind of try to emphasize the fact that the planning a lesson is kind of like like a sports exercise, that there needs to be intervals there, that we have these high intensity moments in the school where the groups are together and there's a lot of communication and it could be there's a lot of information pouring in, but then there needs to be those really calm and mindful moments when we just calm down and slow down and completely kind of focus on what is happening with our body and surroundings and things like that.
Having a variety of different activities in daily school life is really important. And one thing that we want to emphasize is the happiness in schools. And it, of course, enhances learning as well. And Juha, do you remember the old Finnish idiom that what you learn without joy, you forget without regret?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, I think the element of joy of learning is widely discussed, and I think it's very important that, for example, when I've made student questionnaires or parent questionnaires, I think one of the single most important questions which I've usually put in the questionnaires is that, does your child like to go to the school in the morning? And I think it's a very valuable indicator there.
Yes.
And if we can kind of catch those potentially challenging moments early enough, we have this early intervention system that if the teachers are able to kind of detect and voice their concerns early enough, then it is highly likely that we can still support the child in the best possible way, so that those potential problems don't grow any larger there. There are interesting studies about the education systems internationally, because the Finland believes in early intervention, so we put quite a lot of focus and resources and money on early intervention. And then some of the other countries then start the support system much later on in the process. So actually putting the money in early on saves it. So
True.
it's actually financially beneficial as well.
Yes. And speaking of early intervention, what we also start at a very early stage in Finnish schools is the student participation and allowing space and time for students to participate and have ownership on their own learning as well. We have a very strong emphasis on self-assessment, and students are taught peer assessment in a very early stage as well. So the whole idea is that teacher gradually releases the assessment and evaluation responsibility a lot towards the student. And I've been teaching a lot in early years, and what I mean by early years is early years in basic education, which is first and second grade. And we have a strong emphasis on strengths pedagogy in Finnish education. And what I find really those really good moments as a teacher, and what I felt that are most rewarding for myself as well, is that when we are studying strengths and when we are focusing on strengths with kids as early as 7 and 8 year olds, it's really great to see that when they start finding their own strengths, they start finding names for their strengths. And what's most important is when they start to see the strengths in others and talk about that's what I think is really great.
Yeah, I completely agree. Again, it's kind of fun to kind of interact with that kind of even younger students that they start talking them kind of like the child talk, but then you can find elements of this kind of like a new thinking, the
Yeah.
strength-based thinking, and I completely agree that it is a great moment in your kind of educational career there.
True.
It's interesting all in all when we think about the group and we think about the individual that there are kind of like two basic needs there that us humans we have this kind of innate need to belong into somewhere and you should never kind of underestimate the student or human need to connect and be part of the group. And at the same time, we want to be individuals. So kind of balancing between finding the well-being inside the individual and then finding the well-being into the group. It's interesting and sometimes challenging for our educators.
That's true.
Laura, you talked about the student participation, which is absolutely necessary there to kind of get the ownership and find it there. And again, from the kind of like the school management point of view, is one of the kind of like a connecting topics would be also the student engagement that we try to kind of engage the students in many ways and in many activities, also at the administration level of the school. So that they kind of get the feeling that they are part of the community, they have their say when there are decisions to be made, they are being heard, and the good thing about the Finnish education system is that is, for example, governing bodies like student council, they are required. So that the students actually they need to be part of the administrative organization again at the age appropriate level, but
Yes.
still having this feeling that I'm engaged in this, and through that we can again have more student well-being there.
True. And of course, well-being is such a huge topic that it includes a lot of different perspectives, and there are different elements in well-being and in well-being organizations, which we are going to talk a little bit later in this presentation. But all in all, the holistic well-being of Finnish schools and new Nordic schools as well consists of also taking other stakeholders into account. So it means that the student has the possibility to be physically active throughout the school day and before and after that as well.
Yeah.
And it has a lot to do with cooperation with parents, and we're also going to talk a little bit about that later. But making sure that the kids get enough rest, sleep, and they eat well, that's also in the core of a well-being student and taking care of the student well-being.
I'm sometimes amazed by how little the various teacher training programs focus on kind of group processes and things like that, and yet it still kind of lays the very foundation for the well-being in the group. The Finnish teachers are slightly more luckier because the training program includes elements that they understand that what are the processes inside the group there. So that's very good there. But then again, still it still requires value thinking. It still requires mind shift in a way that if I focus on these kind of things, the group processes and group cohesion for, let's say, for a week, it'll pay back 10 times later on during the academic year. It's just a question of what you value and what you feel important.
Exactly. And as a trainer and as a coach, I have also found that it's really important for teachers to kind of rethink and redefine what do we, who are we as teachers? So when we teach students, do we think of students as our students, or are they our students as a team and as a school? And I found out that when teachers start co-teaching, when they feel that they are not alone anymore and they are not in charge of the students alone, that's one of the key milestones where the change starts to happen.
Absolutely.
When aiming for a school culture that celebrates well-being and positive education, focusing on leadership and high-quality structures and processes is very important to us as New Nordic School.
Absolutely, yeah. And at the end of the day, we are looking for well-being organizations, and if we have well-being organizations, then we usually have well-being students there. So it kind of accumulates to the student well-being. That what should be the focus, and then all the elements that are mentioned in the slide can kind of support the same process there.
Yes, and they have the possibility to flourish then when the organization feels well and the school culture is right.
Absolutely, yeah. Also in Finland, there's a lot to be improved in the areas of well-being there. We're not perfect there yet. And if we think about the society, then one of the most important tasks for the school is to provide well-being citizens for the society. And that's where we are aiming for.
Exactly. Thank you for staying with us today.
Thank you.